He has done such great things. He's going to grace us with yet again another fantastic rendition of his speech about croissants, this time inventively titled Croissants Again. Please join me in welcoming him.
Now you've seen croissants, those crescent-shaped breads. Huh? Muscle?
Croissant.
Croissant. Right, yeah.
Sorry, I'm a harbinger of organized chaos over here.
Okay, so much. As he said, croissants, because they're crescent-shaped French breads with the brown, flaky outside and the soft, buttery inside. You've probably even had them many, many times, right? Well, I was eating a croissant, an arrow bread, and I thought, Ken, you could bake something like this and maybe even impress your attractive neighbor, Nina. Not a far-out idea until you realize I'd never baked anything before. Well, I did find out if I could bake this. I wasn't sure I could actually do it. But I also learned a deep lesson along the way. You might find useful too. But more about that later. I signed up for a French baking class, 1 hour a week for 4 weeks, taught by Gloria. Typical French chef, like the kind you see on TV, with the white sleeveless apron that goes all the way down to her ankles, you know, with the blonde bob and the French accent, right? And each week we learned one step in the process. The first week, Gloria said, the dough, you knead the dough until it's ready. The second week, the butter, you cut the butter, you flatten the butter just right. The third week, you form the croissants so they form the crescents. Fourth week, learn how to bake all these croissants. I learned the steps. Could I do it? You know, at the last class, Gloria said, now remember class, it takes 8 hours to do this cooking. And make sure you eat your croissants when they're fresh because they spoil quickly. No problem, I was looking forward to eating the croissants that I was going to make. So I bought all the ingredients on a Friday night and I set aside 8 hours on a Saturday, starting at 8 a.m. in the morning. I mixed all the flour together, all the ingredients, looked at this enormous dough ball and said, what is going on here? Looked at the recipe she had given us, learned it was a recipe for the whole class of 12 people, and I was supposed to divide by 12. Now I was baking 48 croissants that had to be eaten right away. No problem. This was my adventure. Maybe Nina would be impressed. I started the process, following Gloria's instructions. Pounded that dough down, put the butter in there, waited for it to rise. Pounded it down, put more butter in there, waited for it to rise. Pounded it down, more butter in there, waited for it to rise. Finally, hours later, I got to pound it down, cut it up, roll it up, and by 3 o'clock, ready to put it in my oven. Trays and trays and trays in my oven. Trays of 12, 12, 12, 12. But I got them all in there. An hour later, after the place had smelled that wonderful smell of baking bread. You know that smell. You know bread, when it breaks, it's great. The scent of butter and the moist air that comes from baking, it was fabulous. And an hour later, I took out 48 croissants. Awesome. But they weren't all croissants. Some were crescent shaped. Some were logs. Some were fruits. But all were brown, flaky, buttery, edible things. I had done it. I had cooked 48, at least, edible French breads, and the smell was wonderful. So strong that it was no surprise that my doorbell rang. And it was Nina. She said, "Wow, what are you baking in here? Can I have to have some? The smell is fabulous." Now Nina was a young, attractive German woman, long black hair and a little plump, so she liked me. So I said, "Nina, come on in. I have 48 croissants for you right away." So Nina came in, opened a bottle of red wine. I gave her a glass. I had a glass. Quickly pushed a croissant to her. "Eat up, Nina." And I took one. We had some wine. Pushed 2 croissants to her. Took 2 myself. We had another glass of wine. So all the croissants I was left. 3 croissants to Nina. I took 3. Had a glass of wine. After an hour, we're both sitting there like this. You know, heavy, buttery croissants. Plenty of red wine. 36 croissants still left. And then Nina said something profound. The lesson that might be valuable to you. She said, "Ken, the next time you want to have a glass of wine with me, and conversation, and croissants, go to Panera Bread and buy 1 for you and 1 for me. Leave the baking to the bakers." Now that might not seem so deep on the surface, but a very distinguished MBA that I know told me that what Nina was really saying was I should outsource, get out of the kitchen and into my life. Makes sense? Out of the kitchen and into my life. Now I know some of you are do-it-yourselfers and saying, "Ken, I like baking. I would want to bake." I would say, yes, you can bake. You could spend 8 hours in the kitchen like I did on a Saturday, on a weekend, to make croissants that you can buy at Panera Bread for $2 a piece. Or you could leave the baking to bakers, outsource, and have the pleasure of having more time to do more, save the money of spending on enormous dough balls, and enjoy the company with somebody like me. Leave the baking to bakers.